Hi, and welcome back to the Business Career College video series. This rather busy looking slide is the introduction to the fourth video in the Needs Analysis series. So if you haven't watched the first three videos, and if you're not at least somewhat familiar with the time value of money concepts, those are a couple things that you should go and have a look at. But if we take the information presented in the last video and we assume that it's correct, then here's what we know. We have arrived at today's need at just under $850,000 of life insurance. And we said there were really three different possible solutions, and maybe you could introduce some more here, but let's go with these, that we would have maybe $750,000 of T20 and $100,000 of permanent insurance, or maybe $600,000 of T10, $150,000 of T20, and $100,000 of permanent insurance. Or maybe we just address our whole need with term insurance, maybe T20 in this case, and plan to convert some later on. Now really, we can do this same calculation, this how much insurance do you need calculation, at each new period along the way. So let's move out to the end of this 16-year span. So we say, here we are 16 years out, which basically puts us right here. And we can essentially redo the needs analysis here. So we know that we need $42,651 to get through that 10-year span. And then we know we need $85,302 to get through this 10-year span. That's what you're going to have at the beginning of that 10 years. Remember, the assumption was that $37,284 today at a 3% return was going to turn into $85,302. But now you don't have the 26 years in question here. You only have this 10 years. So from this period 16 years out, you'll have 10 years, so you'll no longer have a need of $37,284 here. Instead, your need will be $63,473. This will still be zero. And then for this final period, this expensive $119,000 need, now you're going to have 10 plus 10 plus 10, 30 years to save to meet that. And at a 3% rate, then you're going to need to have $49,183. That'll be the need all at year 16. And of course, inflation is all taken into account because we used a rate of return that was net of inflation, so we're all good that way. And we can see then, we take 42,651 plus 63,473 plus 49,183, and the need here in 16 years, in total then, the amount of insurance that will have to be in place will be $155,307, as long as we've done everything accurately as far as our needs analysis calculations up here. So roughly $150,000 of permanent insurance. So the question is then, if I do one of these permanent solutions today, is it realistic that my permanent insurance would grow to be a $155,000 permanent death benefit in 16 years? You only need to get about a 2.8% annual increase in your death benefit in order for that to happen. I would suggest that's not an overly aggressive assumption with most permanent insurance policies. If you're deciding to go this route, this conversion later, what you might show here, you might say, okay, if we decide to do this, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to convert. And what's going to be the cost of converting? And this might be the solution that these folks choose. They say, what's the cost of converting that roughly $155,000 of permanent insurance? Probably a little bit more than that, but let's go with $155,000 of permanent insurance at your current age plus 16 years. And now you can work that into your financial plan. So now these folks know exactly what their insurance need is going to look like at each subsequent stage along the way. And of course, you could do the same thing over here. We want to make sure this $155,000 turns into enough to fill that need. And of course it will. It's a larger amount. So maybe you don't have to do permanent insurance here, but you have all the tools now available to make this determination, where possibly instead of using permanent insurance here, we could maybe plan to renew the T20 on a limited basis. Maybe you renew the T20 to take you through this 10-year span and this 10-year span, and then you just use permanent insurance for this last 25-year span. There's all kinds of different options available here, and what we have now is the ability to decide what option is going to work best in this particular circumstance. So I hope that that helps. I know it's a fairly involved way of doing a needs analysis, but I would suggest it's a more robust needs analysis than what we're accustomed to seeing, because it not only describes the amount of insurance, and I believe with a fair bit of precision, but also it describes, or it helps us to select the types of insurance that will be needed, to estimate the cost of those insurance policies down the road, to be able to make decisions like when is conversion going to be appropriate, when it's going to be appropriate to lapse a death benefit. We can essentially use this to map out somebody's entire life insurance needs analysis for the rest of their life, with both the type and amount of insurance in any given year. So I hope that's helpful. I hope you can actually take this and apply it. And maybe even if you don't apply it exactly this way in your practice, I believe it does help to better understand how we do and how we get the best possible insurance needs analysis. So thank you very much, and please do join us for the videos that will continue this series, where we're going to talk about disability insurance and critical illness insurance needs analysis. Thank you very kindly.